morning, Zion Baptist. Whether you're on the Clarion campus, Petroleum Valley, or Jefferson County, we want to say hi and thank you very, very much for all you do for us and with us. We're very, very grateful. Trent called us up the other day and said, hey, we're going to start a new series soon. It's called something about neighboring well. And so he said, Mark and Holly, will you guys talk about how neighboring looked in the jungle in Papua New Guinea and how you did that well in a third world country? Well, the first thing is there's a couple that come to mind really quickly, and those are, number one, we went and lived among them. There had never been ever in the history of the Baguido people and the Mariama village that anybody came and lived among them to stay with them. And we did that for 15 years. So they could not believe that there would be somebody, a missionary, come and live among them. The second thing we did that was a great neighboring tool, if you will, was learn their language and culture. Nobody had ever learned their tribal language and their tribal culture. And so that was, that they just could not believe it, that somebody would come and do that. Because it's difficult. It's hard. It took a long time. And the other thing we did was just getting dirty with them. Like, sure, we came, we lived with them, literally in their houses, in their huts, until we built our own house. And then we lived with them, like in the village, for the next 15 years as they built their houses. We went to the jungle to collect materials. As they did their canoes out of the trees, we went out with our axe and helped them do that. As they went to the swamps and did sago, the ladies, that's their staple of food, we did that with them. Why would you do that? There's no good reason you would do that besides, and it worked very, very well, that they were like, wow, whatever message you have, that's what we want to hear, because nobody has ever done that, has been with us, lived amongst us, learned our language. And so we want to hear what you guys have to say.
Yeah, so when I think about neighboring, I think about loving one another well. I think about all the love one another's that are in the New Testament. There are heaps of them, piles of them. And I think about, so our context was obviously different. It was a very third world grassroots situation where the women there were very different than how I was brought up and the culture that I knew. But I think about neighboring in any context that there's certain elements that are not really different. And so loving is one of them, layering your life with their life, leaning in and listening well, and understanding the context of your neighbor. So for example, where we lived, I'm just thinking of a time that I was walking down on a Sunday morning to the church gathering. And here we might come into the church building and we would see our friends and I would greet you and you would greet me and I would compliment your hair or your purse or ask about your children. That's a commonality. Or, something of that nature. Ask how your week was. And I remember walking down one morning and my friend Lena was in her house getting ready to come out the door to church, and she was bent over her open fire with her pot, and she was stirring something, and she yelled, hey, sister, I'll just be a little bit. I got to feed my kids first. And I'm like, oh, okay. All right. Well, what are you doing? She said, well, I woke up this morning and we didn't have anything to eat, and so I sent my kid up the coconut tree, and he hit down a couple bats, and I took that bat and I pulled the wings off and I put it in the pot. I'm boiling the bat. I'm just going to feed my kids the bat, and then I'll walk with you to church. And I thought, that's just like a little different than what we would maybe be doing on a Sunday morning. Yeah, and so there's differences, but there's commonalities. Like I think about 1 Thessalonians 5:14, that says that we admonish the unruly and we encourage the faint-hearted and help the weak. That's applicable across any context. You think about your neighbor next door, think about their context, think about what they might be dealing with or going through, and then lean in and listen and get to know them. I don't know what else.
Well, just one last thing. So when we were done there in Mariama, we said, hey, listen, so what took you by surprise? Like, what was different that we did? And you're just thinking, wow, why did they keep doing that? And they said, well, you kept coming back to our village. Like you would be here for 3 or 4 years, and then you'd leave and go say hi to your families back in America, and then you come back. And then you'd have a medical emergency, and then you'd leave, and then you come back. And so you just kept coming back. We knew that you loved us because you kept coming back. I think that's very applicable to wherever we live, in whatever context, whatever discipleship. Loving your neighbor gets messy quite a bit and gets hard. Well, when you keep coming back, I'm thinking of one relationship I have right now. I feel like he keeps poking me in the eye. Not literally, but I keep coming back and keep loving him and ignoring him poking me in the eye. So again, thanks for allowing us to do what we do in Papua New Guinea, and now raising up the new generation, the next generation, to go and make disciples of all nations.